The traveler began his story, painting a picture of a small village nestled between rolling hills and lush meadows. In this village, there lived a young man named David. David was known for his kindness, humility, and a heart full of courage. He spent his days tending to the fields, helping his neighbors, and dreaming of a world where strength was measured not by physical might, but by the goodness one carried in their soul. The village was, however, shadowed by a neighboring town ruled by a tyrant named Goliath. Goliath was a giant of a man, both in stature and cruelty. He demanded tribute from the surrounding villages, terrorizing them with his oppressive rule and intimidating presence. The people lived in constant fear, their spirits crushed under the weight of Goliath's dictatorship. David, unable to bear witness to the suffering of his people, decided it was time for a change. He knew he couldn't defeat Goliath in physical combat, but he believed in a different kind of strength, the strength of resilience, wit, allies, and the power of a united community. David took on the role of the strategist, utilizing his knowledge of the terrain and the weaknesses in Goliath's rule. The villagers, inspired by David's courage, began to stand up against the oppressor in small, subtle ways. They found strength in their unity, and the once trembling village started to resonate with a quiet but unwavering defiance. David exploited the natural grievances that arose in any society, magnifying them and blaming Goliath for every misfortune that befell the village. As discontent spread, David gathered a following. The villagers rallied together and, as a united front, banished Goliath from the land. He was lauded as a hero and elevated as a new leader. The village that was once overshadowed by the tyrant Goliath became a beacon of hope for neighboring communities. The story of David and the transformation from a vulnerable village to a symbol of resilience echoed through the hills, inspiring others to stand up against injustice and tyranny. As the years passed, however, whispers of power began to infiltrate David's thoughts. The advisors around him, sensing the shift, subtly fueled his desire for more control and influence. They painted a picture, not of a village, but a kingdom, one that could be even more magnificent if he wielded power with a firmer hand, reinforcing the notion that absolute power was necessary for the village's ultimate greatness. Being predisposed to be resistant to these temptations, David nonetheless found himself drawn to the idea of expanding his authority. The allure of absolute power clouded his judgment, and he began to make decisions that prioritized his own ambitions over the well-being of his people, of his fledgling kingdom. As his power grew unchecked, David became increasingly isolated. His advisors, no longer loyal subjects, were now power-hungry opportunists vying for their own interests. The people, initially bewildered by the sudden transformation, began to voice discontent. Protests erupted, but David, now intoxicated by the taste of power, responded with a heavy hand. The once thriving community began to crumble under the weight of oppression. The village that had once stood as a beacon of justice and prosperity now bore the scars of a leader corrupted by the very power he once sought to uproot. The pursuit of unchecked power had cost him the love and the loyalty of his own people and the community they fought so hard to build. Surrounded by the ruins of this once thriving society, David was forced to come to terms with the extent of his folly. In the end, the once great village, reduced to rubble, laid in shambles. This is a story about the birth of that traveler.